Welcome to New Season Academy, where we go beyond the textbook to uncover the stories, mysteries, and surprising moments that shaped our world. I'm so glad you're here. Let's step back in time. Imagine it's the summer of 1947. The Second World War is finally over. Across America, families are settling back into everyday life after years of sacrifice. Soldiers have returned home. New neighborhoods are being built. New cars are rolling off of assembly lines. There is a feeling of hope that the future will be brighter than the past. But beneath that optimism, something else is beginning. A new rivalry is quietly growing between the United States and the Soviet Union. Historians would later call it the Cold War, a time when secrets, military technology, and intelligence gathering became just as important as armies on the battlefield. At the same time, Americans have become fascinated by the sky. New airplanes are being tested. Experimental aircraft are flying faster and higher than ever before. Across the country, newspapers are reporting strange sightings of mysterious objects that witnesses describe as flying discs or flying saucers. Most people dismiss the stories as misunderstandings. Others aren't so sure. No one could have imagined that one ordinary ranch in southeastern New Mexico was about to become the center of one of history's greatest mysteries. About 75 miles northwest of the small town of Roswell lay the Foster Ranch, a remote sheep ranch surrounded by miles of open prairie. There were no busy highways, no crowded neighborhoods, and very few visitors. It was a quiet, isolated country where the sounds of wind and distant thunder often carried further than the voices of the people. Life on the ranch followed a simple rhythm. Long days were spent tending sheep, repairing fences, watching the weather, and hoping for enough rain to keep the grass alive. It wasn't the kind of place where exciting things happen. That is, until one morning in July. After a powerful thunderstorm swept across the desert, ranch foreman William Brazel climbed into his truck to inspect the property. Storms often scattered branches or damaged fences, and checking the pasture was just another part of the job. As he drove across the open land, something unusual caught his eye. Pieces of a strange material were scattered all across the ground. Not just a few pieces, hundreds of them. Some looked like thin sheets of shiny metallic foil that reflected in the morning sunlight. Others resembled narrow wooden sticks or rubber-like strips, unlike anything he had ever seen. The debris stretched across a surprisingly large area, as though something had broken apart high above the ranch before falling back to earth. Curious, Brazel climbed out of his truck and picked up a piece. It felt unusually light. He tried bending it. Some of the pieces folded easily. Others seemed strangely resilient, almost returning to their original shape. Whatever it was, Brazel didn't recognize it, and that bothered him. Remember, this was a rancher who had spent years working in the open country. He knew what a crashed airplane looked like. He knew the materials used in fences, farm equipment, and weather balloons. This wasn't any of those. For a few days, Brazel went about his work, but the discovery stayed on his mind. Neighbors talked. Questions spread. Eventually, he decided that the strange debris should be reported, so he drove into Roswell and contacted the local authorities. At first, it probably seemed like a routine report. Not anyone, not even Brazel, the local sheriff, and certainly not the people living in Roswell, could have guessed that this decision was about to launch one of the most famous mysteries of the 20th century. Within hours, word reached the nearby Roswell Army Air Field, home to one of the nation's most important military bases. And before the sun set, soldiers were already on their way to the ranch. The military didn't just send anyone. Roswell Army Air Field was home to the Army Air Force's 509th Bomb Group, an elite unit unlike any other in the world. Just 2 years earlier, these were the men who had carried out the most closely guarded mission in military history, the delivery of the atomic bombs that helped bring the war to an end. Because of that, everything connected to the base was treated with extraordinary care. Its officers were experienced. Its personnel were highly trained. Its work was often classified. If these men believed that something unusual had been found, people assumed they knew what they were talking about. When military personnel arrived at the Foster Ranch, they carefully collected every piece of debris they could find. Nothing was left to chance. The material was loaded into military vehicles and transported back to Roswell Army Air Field for examination. At this point, you might expect the military to quietly investigate what they had found. Instead, they did something almost unimaginable. They told the world. On the afternoon of July 8, 1947, Lieutenant Walter Hott, the base's public information officer, issued an official press release to the local reporters. The opening words were stunning. The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday. Imagine being the newspaper editor who read those words. Would you assume it was a joke? Would you think someone had made a mistake? Or would you trust that an official statement from the United States Army had been carefully verified before it was released? The press release continued by announcing that personnel from Roswell Army Air Field had discovered a flying disc. 2 simple words. Flying disc. Within minutes, telephones rang across the nation. Editors hurried to rewrite front pages. Reporters raced to gather more information. Radio stations interrupted their regular programming. The story spread with astonishing speed. The front page of the Roswell Daily Record boldly declared, RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. For many Americans, this wasn't gossip. It wasn't speculation. It was an official announcement from one of the most trusted institutions of the country. Imagine sitting around your family's breakfast table that morning. The newspaper is unfolded open in front of you. You read the headline once, then you read it again. Your children ask what it means. Your neighbors begin walking across the street to compare newspapers. The radio repeats the story. Could it actually be true? Had the United States military recovered something from another world? Across America, conversations erupted. Some people laughed in disbelief. Others stared at the headlines in silence. For a few extraordinary hours, anything seemed possible. But then, everything changed. Before the day was over, another announcement was made. This time, there was no excitement, no mystery, no talk of flying saucers. Military officials invited reporters to see the recovered material for themselves. Spread across the table were pieces of rubber, thin metallic foil, wooden sticks, fragments that looked remarkably ordinary. The commanding officer calmly explained that there had been a misunderstanding. The object recovered near Roswell was not a flying disc. It was simply the remains of a weather balloon. And just like that, the biggest story in America appeared to be over. Many newspapers quietly printed the military's new explanation the very next day. For countless Americans, that was enough. Case closed. But not everyone was convinced. Some people couldn't stop talking about the first announcement. If the debris was really just a weather balloon, how had one of the most elite military units in the world mistaken it for a flying disc? Why issue the original press release at all? And perhaps the question that would echo for generations, why change the story so quickly? Those questions refused to disappear. Instead, they grew. And over the decades that followed, the Roswell Incident would transform from a single newspaper headline into one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. For a short time, it seemed as though the Roswell story had come to an end. The military had offered an explanation. Most newspapers moved on to other headlines. Life returned to normal. But some stories have a way of refusing to disappear. The people who had followed the original announcement couldn't help but wonder about the sudden change. If the debris had truly come from an ordinary weather balloon, why had the military's own press release called it a flying disc? Was someone mistaken? Or was there something more to the story? As the years passed, those questions continued to circulate. Then something unexpected happened. The world itself began to change. The Cold War began to become more intense. The United States and Soviet Union competed to develop more powerful weapons, faster aircraft, advanced radar systems, and new technologies that were hidden from the public view. Secrecy became a normal part of military life. Many government projects were classified. Even people working on those projects often only knew about the small part their role was playing. Against that backdrop, the Roswell story found a new life. In the 1970s and 80s, books, magazine articles, television specials, and documentaries brought the mystery back into the spotlight. Some former military personnel claimed they had witnessed unusual events. Others insisted that they had been ordered to remain silent. Stories began to grow with each passing decade. Some believed that the military had recovered an alien spacecraft. Others claimed that there had been extraterrestrial bodies. Some others suggested that the government had hidden the truth from the American people. These ideas captured the public's imagination. Roswell became more than a place on a map. It became a symbol of mystery. Visitors traveled from around the world hoping to see where it all began. Museums were built. Festivals were held. Movies and television shows borrowed ideas from the story, making Roswell one of the most recognizable names in modern folklore. But historians approach mysteries differently. Instead of beginning with a conclusion, they begin with evidence. They ask questions. Who was actually there? When was the account recorded? Does one source support another? What documents still exist? And perhaps more importantly, what evidence can be verified? As more government records became available over the years, researchers began examining thousands of pages of military documents that had once been classified. Those records pointed historians toward a secret military program known as Project Mogul. Project Mogul wasn't designed to search for flying saucers. It had an entirely different purpose. In the early years of the Cold War, American leaders worried that the Soviet Union might secretly test nuclear weapons. To detect those explosions from thousands of miles away, scientists developed long strings of high-altitude balloons carrying sensitive microphones and scientific instruments high into the atmosphere. The project was so secret that very few people even knew it existed. If one of those balloon arrays crashed on a remote ranch, the military couldn't simply just explain what it really was. Doing so might reveal valuable information to America's newest rival. Many historians now believe that this helps explain the confusing events of July 1947. The strange materials found by William Brazel may have looked unfamiliar because they weren't part of any other ordinary weather balloon at all. They were more likely components of an experimental surveillance system unlike anything most people had ever seen. If that's true, the military faced a difficult decision. Tell the truth and risk exposing a classified national security project? Or offer a simpler explanation that protected military secrets? Whether that decision was the right one is still debated today. What isn't debated is this: the original announcement, followed by the sudden reversal. It created a mystery that has fascinated generations. And once a mystery captures the public imagination, it can become almost impossible to put to rest. Nearly 80 years later, Roswell continues to spark conversations, documentaries, books, and debates around the world. Not because everyone agrees on what happened, but because everyone is still asking the same question. What really happened in the New Mexico desert? Nearly 80 years have passed since that hot summer day in 1947. William Brazel is gone. Many of the soldiers stationed at Roswell Army Air Field are gone as well. The original pieces of debris are long gone. Yet the questions remain. Today, Roswell has become one of the most recognizable small towns in the world. Each year, visitors travel from across the globe to see where the mystery began. Museums explore the many theories surrounding the incident. Gift shops sell flying saucer souvenirs. Festivals celebrate the story that transformed an ordinary ranch into one of history's most famous locations. Whether visitors come searching for answers or simply because they're curious, one thing is certain: Roswell has become part of American culture. But perhaps the most interesting part of this story isn't whether the object came from another world. It's what the mystery teaches us about history itself. As historians, we rarely get to witness the past with our own eyes. Instead, we become investigators. We collect evidence. We compare eyewitness accounts. We study newspaper articles, photographs, military records, letters, and official documents. Sometimes those sources agree. Sometimes they contradict one another. When that happens, historians don't simply choose the answer that they like best. They ask better questions. Who created this source? When was it written? Could the person have been mistaken? Did new information become available years later? Is there physical evidence that supports the claim? Every new piece of information helps us better understand the past. But history isn't always as neat and tidy as we'd like it to be. Sometimes, even after decades of research, a few questions remain unanswered. And that's okay. History isn't about believing every story we hear, nor is it about dismissing ideas simply because they're unusual. It's about following the evidence with an open and curious mind. The Roswell Incident reminds us that extraordinary claims deserve careful investigation. It also reminds us that governments sometimes keep secrets, especially during times of war or international tension. Understanding why these decisions were made is just as important as understanding the events themselves. So, did the military recover a flying saucer? Most historians believe the available evidence points instead to Project Mogul, the classified balloon program designed to detect Soviet nuclear tests during the Cold War. Could every question surrounding Roswell ever be answered to everyone's satisfaction? Probably not. And maybe that's one reason this story continues to fascinate people around the world, because some mysteries aren't remembered simply for their answer. They're remembered because they inspire us to keep asking questions. Before we go, let's think like a historian. Whenever you hear an incredible story, whether it's about history, science, or current events, try asking yourself these 4 questions. Who is telling the story? What evidence supports it? Are there other sources that agree or disagree? And what new information might change our understanding of the future? If you enjoyed stepping back in time with me today, I'd love to invite you to become a part of the New Season Academy community. Please take a moment to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. We go beyond the textbook to uncover the stories, mysteries, and surprising moments that shaped our world. Whether we're exploring forgotten heroes, world-changing inventions, unsolved mysteries, or remarkable moments in history, there's always another story waiting to be discovered. Thank you for joining me on our stories that shaped our world. I'm so glad you're here. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and never stop wondering what stories are still waiting to be uncovered. I'll see you soon as we step back in time once again.